Hi, everyone. My name is Grady Diaz, and welcome to FIBA's Women in Officiating webinar. Throughout the year, our goal is to bring interesting individuals from all areas of the game, such as players, coaches, and referees, to share their valuable insights and experiences with all of you. Today's webinar is titled Reaching the Next Level, Building Mental Agility for Peak Performance on and off the court. First, I'd like to welcome Head of Refereeing, Carl Unibrand, via video message. Carl?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Women in Officiating webinar. I really apologize that I cannot be with you, but I'm traveling to China as this webinar is taking place. But thanks to the nowadays technology, I can send my regards also with the video recording. Success means so different things for the different people. Going to the next level means different things for the different people. So we cannot judge somebody to be successful based on only our perception. Today, we have a great opportunity to have an experienced NBA referee, also ex-FIBA referee, but also wife of basketball referee and mother of maybe the future basketball referee, Lauren Holtkamp, with us. And I'm sure that Lauren is able to share all the experience that she had gained during his remarkable career as a referee and to see how we can go to the next level, whatever our next level is. Is it on court, off court? But thinking about to be a better referee and better human being, it's always about, as a conclusion, it's about how I can be best possible version of myself. And even tomorrow, better version of myself than I was today. I'm 100% sure that the webinar will be really interesting. And I really would like to thank and appreciate that Lauren Holtkamp found the time and be with us today. Also, I would like to thank everybody behind the scene who made this Women in Officiating webinar possible. Rachel, Armando, Juanito, and Petri. And not forgetting also Grady, who is always doing a great job as a host. So please enjoy the webinar and take the best tips and tricks how to get to the next level. Thank you very much.
Today, we will be joined by Lauren Holtkamp Sterling. She recently retired as an NBA referee of 10 years. At the NBA, she ran a mentoring group for women interested in being hired as NBA referees. When she got hired, it had been 20 years since they had last hired a woman as a referee, which is quite incredible. She officiated in the WNBA for 4 seasons and was a FIBA certified referee during her career. Before her career in the pro game, she was an NCAA official and NCAA tournament official. Now she's a mental health professional who is really excited to merge these two worlds together. Lauren, thank you so much for being here with us. We are so excited to have you.
Thank you, Grady. I appreciate the introduction. Hello to Carl out there also, and everybody behind the scenes who has worked so hard to bring this today. And all the participants out there across the globe. Hello out there.
All right, so just to begin, um, I'd love to start with, your journey. Can you tell us how you got started as a referee?
Yeah, I will never get tired of talking about how I was able to transition my love of sport and basketball in particular into a full career as a referee. Man, and it's given me such a good life. I played in college. And when I was finished, I wanted to stay connected to the game and make some extra money. And so I started working like biddy ball, little kids on Saturday morning. And here in the United States, it's really common to start at a recreational level. So that's what I did. I would go to local like YMCAs, which are the equivalent of like a local city rec center or something like that, and referee on Saturday mornings. And then from there, I joined a high school association and did high school basketball, and was really fortunate to have some people who recognized my passion for the work and could connect me to more opportunities. And so I ended up working some junior college basketball and worked my way into the NCAA world, where I refereed. And then from there, I joined the NBA program. And a little plug here for this, when I came into the NBA program, developmental program, um, we would go to summer league, which I know a lot of FIBA referees go to for training and to share training back and forth and to have dialogue about global officiating in the summer in Las Vegas. So I don't know if anybody on this call has had an opportunity to do that yet, but you may at some point. Um, but when I started, we would start at summer league and then we would get hired into the development league. Well, now the NBA has a robust program of recruitment, um, grassroots level training that I know FIBA referees are moving through. And then from there, you would work either in the WNBA and the NBA, or the WNBA or the NBA. And we have several people on staff, on our NBA staff, who are FIBA referees, and one that came exclusively from the FIBA system, and some more in the developmental system. So it's really a fantastic sort of connection between the organizations and training opportunities. So that was how I came up. And as you said, Grady, I worked 10 years as an NBA referee, and I took a medical retirement last year.
What were some of the challenges you faced? And I know, obviously, I just mentioned that you were, the first woman referee after 20 years, since the last one. And I'm just curious to know, like, what were some of your challenges throughout, your time as a referee?
Yeah. I'm really excited to get into this, and I'm gonna hear what we're gonna do today is hear from the participants too about what they're experiencing their challenges to be. So I'm gonna kind of prime the pump here for everybody a little bit when I talk about what my experience was. You know, 15, 16, 17 years ago, when I was coming up through the developmental process, there just weren't a lot of women ahead of me. Violet Palmer was an NBA referee. And so I looked up to her. I could watch her work on the floor. Angelica Suffren, who's actually a FIBA referee also, and she is a WNBA referee and NCAA referee. I remember watching her early on and just going, man, I want to find that combination of strength and grace and precise decision making on the court. But that was a challenge because there wasn't a lot of representation for me to look toward in terms of modeling myself, my own work after, and even just connecting as mentors. Violet was on the West Coast of the United States. I'm on the East Coast. So we had some distance. So that was one of the challenges, not being able to see myself reflected in leadership and these opportunities that I was hoping I would have an opportunity to connect with. That was one challenge. I'm going to say one more, and because I definitely want to get to the participants' experience, and I want, I'm here for you all here today. But a big thing for me was the travel fatigue was really challenging. Moving across time zones, finding good nutritious food to eat on the road, being isolated away from friends and family. Um, and then the mental rigors of doing the work. And so the level of scrutiny that comes with advancement, it's the other side of the coin, right? On the one side, you have the excitement and the advancement, which is incredible and really growth promoting in a lot of ways. The other side of that is as you move up, scrutiny increases. And so there was the mental part of that. And at the same time, social media was really starting to explode. And I don't think I need to tell everybody, what the social media sphere can be like. So briefly, those are some of the challenges that I had. And then I also tore my ACL in 2018 on the court in a game at the end of the season. So I rehabbed a significant orthopedic injury. I had my daughter during that time also. And so coming back onto the court and figuring out how to live into some sort of connected balance in my personal and family life and continue to show up at a high level professionally. Those were the exciting challenges that I think really have fueled my interest in bringing this idea of mental health, what it is to nurture your mental health in a very physical space of refereeing.
And with, those challenges said, I'm curious to know what were some of the key moments that really helped shape your career?
Um, some key moments that helped shape my career. I think what I th- rather than key moments, I think about it as key relationships. I think that we are only as healthy as the relationships that we find ourselves in and that we nurture. And so, some key relationships for me that I think, when I think back on my career, have just are significant. Um, when I got hired into the NBA, Danny Crawford, who is a finals referee and a leader on our staff, really took me in as a mentee, and we did a lot of tape breakdown together. His He accepted me and challenged me. So this experience of belonging and challenge went hand in hand with him. And I think that starting in my experience in the NBA as a referee, that was really critical. A lot of people were like, what do they do? Oh, another woman. Can she hack it? Can she do the work? What's it going to change? How's it going to change the experience for us on staff, having another woman on our staff? And so there were a lot of questions, and they came from a good place. And having the mentorship of Danny Crawford was critical for me early on. Um, and then really another incredibly important experience for me was tearing my ACL and becoming a mother. So on one hand, difficult and devastating to tear an ACL. And the recovery process is really can be pretty complicated and long and painful. And it feels like the game is passing you by while I was out rehabbing. It felt like things were just continuing to move without me. And that was disorienting for me. On the other hand, it really challenged me to reconsider what my relationship was to my work, what my relationship was to my body, what it meant to find performance edges, an edge to performance in what seemed like an insurmountable challenge. Um, so I look back on that and truly, I would not trade that experience for anything. And then becoming a mother, obviously, man, just really has challenged me to connect head and heart in my life and in this world of officiating. It challenged me to do that and think about in a more robust way, who do I want to be in this work and who do I want to be for other women in this work?
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing, you know, those moments of your journey. And now it's your time to shine with your presentation. So
Aw.
the floor is yours again.
Thanks, Grady. I so appreciate the thoughtful questions. And I'm really excited to engage with the participants here. I wish we were all in a room together. I am going to share my screen. Okay, so hello out there. I'm so curious where everybody, I know we have a good group of people here, and it doesn't feel right to start into something without saying hello. So I know I've talked a bit. I've just been talking at a computer screen. If just a couple of you could take a moment and pop into the chat and just let me know where globally where everybody is. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. I'm going to give a few minutes and hope that somebody will say hello. Okay, it's no problem. We are going to, as you connect and want to engage, that chat room is open and you can let me know where you're plugging in from. This presentation, as Grady and I talked about, feel really excited about the opportunity to connect the world of mental health with the world of officiating. I think that so often, because we're operating as officials in a performance-based environment, a competitive environment, the initial thoughts around gaining an edge in performance and moving forward, we tend to focus on the physical, which makes a lot of sense. We need to be able to move up and down the court well. We need to stay healthy. We need to display our confidence and our competency on the court and off the court. So a lot of times we think about physical fitness and nutrition. We also think about what it is to be highly competent in rules and game management scenarios. You just won't advance without having that foundational competence. And so I know a lot of time is spent there too. And I think that other presenters can speak to that. In my experience and what I bring unique to this group and feel excited about sharing is how to engage with your work and engage with your life in a way that enhances your performance. And we're going to do that through mental agility. So reaching the next level, building mental agility for peak performance on and off the court. Real quick, I see some people have said hello. Brooks in Vancouver, Canada, hi. Desiree, South Carolina. Umar from Mauritania, hi. Hi, thank you for saying hello. Okay, so to give you a sense of what we are doing today together, the mental game. Here's a little, we've broken it down into 4 quarters. So quarter 1, together, let's find ourselves. I think it's important, some of you may not be so interested in the mental health element of officiating. And what I would say to that is it's okay. If you find yourself kind of skeptical or on the fence, that's fine. Hang out with us, see what you think of this. Some of you may be really excited about the possibilities. What I am hoping for is that at the end of this, everyone's fingerprints will be on this. Let's make this yours and make this an experience that you can take back on and off the court for yourselves. So whether you're a skeptic or an enthusiast, you're welcome. Come as you are. Okay, so quarter 1, we're going to find ourselves. Quarter 2, let's go for a swim. I'll explain that. Quarter 3, cultivate the 3 C's. And quarter 4, grab onto some takeaways. And we'll move on to some questions from there. So that's our orientation for today. Okay, as Grady mentioned, I'm a mental health professional. And in my training as a therapist, context, people would say context is king, but no, for our presentation, our purposes today, context is queen, right? So when we think about where we find ourselves in the work and the kind of relationship that we want to have to our officiating careers, we don't operate in a bubble. We are surrounded by performance standards, social expectations. The opportunities and possibilities reflect the very real reality of the context in which we're working, the social political climate, that we find ourselves in, our commitments at home, our commitments at work. So when we show up as referees, we are not just human beings, professionals showing up as isolated individuals. We are showing up within a particular context. And as women in officiating, there are some unique challenges to what that looks like. There's also, I'm happy to say, a lot of unique support in what that looks like. So, off the top of my head, I can tell you some of the unique challenges, and I've mentioned some of them here, but I want to mention a few more that come to mind for me when I think about being a woman in officiating. So, sport is for everyone, it's not gender specific. And we know that historically, officiating has, you look back historically through officiating, and it's a male dominated space. So we're part of it now. And when I think about what the particular challenges that come with that context, what comes up for me is some performance pressure. So this sense to demonstrate, maybe an urge to demonstrate this high level of performance all the time. And I think that can serve us well if it's balanced. But the other side of that is it can become pressure and it can become claustrophobic. I don't know if any of you out there have heard of the idea of um, fight, flight, or freeze. And so when we find ourselves flooded with performance pressure, we can sort of paralyze or we can go into overactivity. And the challenge with that is if we paralyze, we're not able to do the work in the way that we need to. But if we go into overactivity, we also burn out and we're not able to show up as competently on the court. So performance pressure comes up for me, for women in this space. Let's be real about this. And I always, in my work as a therapist, draw on my work as a referee, which is I want to work from a place of authenticity, a place of honesty, and a place of attunement. And what that means is I'm going to be really honest about what this is. Gender bias and stereotypes. We know we encounter them. There are microaggressions that maybe you can't always put your finger on, but you're like, that just doesn't feel right. And you experience that maybe both on the court within a crew that you're working with, maybe from coaches or players, certainly from fans, and all the way through from the time you leave your house to the time you get to the game and that you return home. So that's something to contend with. And let's be honest about that together. The social scrutiny on social media, I brought that up a little earlier. People are not kind, particularly to women in social spaces. So how do we deal with that? And then there's a lack of representation. If you look up and you think, man, I really want to be the crew chief, at the gold game. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. And I'm not saying that it won't happen, but what I will say, if you look historically, you don't see it happening a lot, right? So, okay, lack of representation. That's our unique challenges on the one side. What I want to do is bring into view also, though, unique support, because a lot of us here now in 2025, I cannot emphasize what a unique time it is to be a woman in sport right now. Doors are opening, and not just opening for you to walk through or to run through, but they're opening with a real recognition that it takes support to move through those doors, and it takes support to bring women with you through those doors. And so I want to highlight, alongside the unique challenges, some real unique support that's in place so that we can balance the two. So first, FIBA just this past year had their first global women in officiating camp. That's huge. The opportunity to connect with other women, to have a spotlight on your work, to have access to the best training. That's immense. FIBA referee maternity plan in place. When I read that as a mother who, as a retired NBA referee, who's a mother of a 5-year-old daughter, man, I cannot tell you the value of being able to support women as they start their families, as they nurture their families, and as they stay connected to their work while they do it. So it's not a matter of needing to leave and then try to find your place back into the work, but this idea of being able to stay connected to both. So that's huge. So the FIBA referee maternity plan. I also learned that recently there's been an allocation of 1 extra female referee license in every national federation. And that will extend for several years, if I understand that correct. So this idea of boosting a robust pool of talent, FIBA is committed to that. And so I say that to you all because you are here at this unique time in history in FIBA officiating in your own lives. And so, yes, let's be honest about the challenges. Let's also be really excited and have open, wide eyes for what the opportunities are. And then obviously these women in officiating webinars that are happening every couple of months where you can access resources and new ways of thinking and how to bolster your work. I'm going to challenge anyone else with us in addition to this group to think about now, when you think about your work as a woman in FIBA officiating, what are the demands that you face? And I've offered this visual as a way to consider 3 buckets of where those demands might come from. So we've got particular physical demands, psychological demands, and social and environmental. So I mentioned earlier, context is queen. What we want to do right now is, instead of me just talking at you, I want you to think about your particular context in the country that you're in, at the level that you're working, and pop into the chat a couple demands that come up for you. They may be physical, they may be social, environmental. If any of you are parents out there, psychological. And I'm just gonna pause here and I'm gonna give you some time to think. And I know the chat room works, so we'll wait and hear from you all. Okay, Desiree, you typed in psychological. I'd love to hear a little more. What does a psychological demand look like from your experience? Okay, we have Brooke. So one of the things that you're highlighting is what it is to balance officiating and performing at any elite level alongside your career and your family. Yeah, it's a lot, right? So you have your career going that requires a certain level of time commitment, energy commitment, availability, alongside your family, where the hope is to be connected and nurture those relationships and show up in a way that is values aligned for yourself. And then showing up as an official in an elite space and managing all that comes with. Brooke, you also say FIBA social. So the social element, yes, language and cultural differences with new crews. Man, I remember people had asked me, what is it like to work with other referees who we don't share the same language as a primary language? And I was like, man, it's really pretty amazing the amount of communication that can happen between eye contact on the court, our signals, but off the court, right? This is one of the things that you're pointing to, Brooke, that there are language and cultural differences with new crews. And a lot of times you may not know the other referees that you're working with until you show up. And I think FIBA, when I was officiating, did a really nice job of creating some social space for people to build relationship. Hello. Oh, good. Some hellos are coming in from China, Madagascar. That's amazing. Okay, so, oh, Desiree's hopping back in about the psychological challenges. The scrutiny when you move up is higher. Mistakes are bigger on a larger stage. And she's speaking from her context in the USA. I imagine, I don't know, I'd love to hear from somebody else. If that's the case, as you move up higher, the level of scrutiny, games are televised, more eyes on the games. When I started officiating 16 years ago, which is not that really long ago, but it's a lifetime in terms of technology advancement, the level of angles now, like I always joke when they show NBA, they will show this like, top view angle. And yeah, you can see everything, but I'm like, it's not humanly possible to referee from the ceiling down, right? So that idea of scrutiny as technology is advanced, for sure. So let's think about what that would look like in these buckets. Um, we've mentioned social cultural. We've mentioned some psychological about the scrutiny and the pressure. I'd love to hear some physical challenges that come up for you all as you think about the physical demands in the work. Okay, so we've got maintaining physical fitness requires consistency. And how do you find the time and the energy for consistency alongside your career and your family commitments? That's right. Um, Injury prevention is huge. Staying in shape. Somebody said staying in shape and intense travel. The travel was always really difficult for me, the travel experience. Yeah, moving across time zones. You're sleeping in a bed that's not yours. Trying to find good food, trying to stay hydrated. Okay, so we've got some physical demands. What I would offer here, as you're looking at, oh, great question about how you face having a child and doing this work, and we'll circle back to that at the end. And people asking about the physical fitness of referees. Okay, we'll circle back to that in the end. Because that was an ongoing question for me also as a referee. But if you'll notice on the screen here, we've got this queen's crown right in the middle of where the physical, the psychological, and the social environmental all come together to create this really sweet spot. And what I would suggest, what I am suggesting to you guys today, to all of you today, is that it is very difficult to operate from a place of mental health and top performance when you don't find yourself in the center of all of these three. So if something's out of balance and out of whack, and I will tell you, there will be days, there will be weeks, there will be months where this crown is not in the center of the three of these. So whenever, for me as a therapist, whenever I'm working with clients who are encountering specific challenges, we always start here around the physical, the psychological, and the social environmental, so we can see what the pressures and the demands are that are pulling people off center. Okay, so I've kind of danced around it a bit, but we're gonna talk a little more specifically about how we define mental health as a FIBA official specifically. So this looks different than if I were talking to just a group of officials here in Atlanta, Georgia, because I do believe the global travel, the cultural differences, they're such exciting opportunities for connection and growth. And they are, if you don't pay attention to them, they can become stumbling blocks. And so you want to, so what I want to think about is how do we define mental health as a FIBA official in your particular context? So context is queen here. For us, mental health is, and I'm proposing this, I would love to hear feedback after this presentation because I want your guys' fingerprints on this with me. I'm curious if you would change any of this definition, but let me read it to you as I conceive of it. Mental health is the ability to adapt to challenges, regulate emotions, and maintain clarity under pressure. Now, where we might go to immediately is on the court. But I also want to remind everybody is this is equally important to do off the court in your professional space as a referee. So adapt to challenges, regulate emotions, and maintain clarity under pressure. Mental health involves mental agility. What do I mean by mental agility? I mean, you want to be able to shift perspectives and not be so sort of having concrete feet in your own perspective that doesn't allow new information to come in. You want to be able to make quick decisions and then stay resilient in the face of adversity, because there's going to be adversity every game, every travel trip, maybe, certainly in the locker room at times, breaking down tape together, getting feedback on your work. Mental health is nurtured in our relationships. And this is really important for me in my work as a therapist, the way that I conceptualize of mental health. And it's nurtured in our relationships with ourselves. And so that's what this presentation is about, our relationship with ourselves through self-awareness and self-care, with others through communication and support. Thanks for the chat room participation. And with our physical health through rest, movement, and recovery. So this is the definition I'm offering our group today. And if anything else comes up for you around something that you would add or tweak, I'd love to hear it. Okay, so let's go for a swim. I'm hoping that everybody, I am meant to bring this up at the beginning, but I hope everybody, if you have a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen nearby, I'm going to ask you to grab it because we are going to participate together in an activity. Before we start, I've just given you a lot of information. I've asked a lot of questions, and we're going to take 3 deep breaths together because we're transitioning into a different portion of our experience together. So let's just take some breaths. You can take that breath and fill your lungs. And then you're going to release it. You may feel yourself grounded. I don't know if you're sitting where you are. I'm standing. I can feel the ground under my feet. But taking these 3 deep breaths, I'm signaling to my body that we're about to make a change here. Okay, so grab a paper and pen and join me in an exercise. Let's go for a swim. Okay, so if you have your piece of paper and pencil or pen, have your paper in front of you. You're going to take your pencil and move about 1 inch in from the left side of your paper and draw a line from the top to the bottom. I should also mention that the paper should be landscape, so long ways here, okay? So you're going to draw a line from top to bottom on the left side, 1 inch in, and a line from the right side, top to bottom, 1 inch in. And it's going to look like that. Look at my squiggly line there. Okay. What this is going to represent is a river. Okay. So I'm trying to get a visual for you. This is the river. When we talk about mental health as officials, we want to stay in the middle of our life, our flow. This is where the flow happens. These are the banks, the river banks. And if a wave comes and knocks us off and we get stuck on a riverbank, man, we're not operating in the flow of the moment and the flow of our experience. We're focused here today on mental agility. If I get stuck on a riverbank, my maneuverability has gone down. I'm not as flexible. So these are the riverbanks, and they represent the left side of your brain and the right hemisphere of your brain. So I don't know how much, we're not going to go into a deep dive of the brain, but what I do want to share with you is this metaphor for how our brain works and how we can engage it. So on the left side, this riverbank, I'm going to have you write the word rigidity, rigidity, rigidity. And on the right side, that represents the right side of our brain, I'm going to have you write the word chaos, chaos, chaos. And then you're going to move in from those lines. And about an inch down from the top, you're going to do another line, so it doesn't touch the top or the bottom. And then on the left side, you're going to do the same on the right side. And I'll show you how that looks here in a second. So you have, and this may be turned around because of the mirror image, but on my left side, as I'm looking at it, rigidity, the second line here, and chaos with the second line here. Okay, so where we want to stay off these riverbanks, and we want to stay in the middle of the river here. Okay. Rigidity, the left side of your brain is about your logical and analytical thinking. The right side of your brain deals with imagination and creativity. It also is about your emotion and your intuition. So obviously there's interplay between these two sides of your brain, the left side with your logical, analytical thinking, the right side is your creative, imaginative, intuitive self. And between the two, the interplay, you want to be able to move between the two flexibly so that you can respond to challenges, think of new ways of overcoming obstacles, and to be able to take care of yourself. So above the second line on the left side, I'm going to ask you to write the word conscientiousness. Okay, so it is CONSCIENTIOUSNESS, conscientiousness. And then on the right side above the other line, you're going to write the word openness. Okay. So we find ourselves, and I'm going to use myself as an example to just help this land a little more clearly, and you can think about your experience. For me, under stress, when a stress wave comes and knocks me out of the middle of the river, I personally move toward the right side of my brain, the right hemisphere of my brain, and I move toward the chaotic side. Okay, so as an example, preparing this presentation for everyone here today, I had so many ideas. I'm like, I want to bring in all this research and I want to share all these stories. But the reality is we have an hour and we need to stay on task and we need to keep moving. And so, um, so my initial move to wanting to bring in like 87 topics in for you all, I need to say, okay, that's the sort of my chaotic urge to just share as much as I can. But I need to move back toward the middle of the river. And the way that I do that is thinking about openness. Okay, so Rachel and I were going back and forth a bit about this presentation, and she provided feedback about how to narrow it in a way that's useful for the group here. And I really appreciate it. So for me, I tend toward chaos under stress, and I want to introduce a movement back toward the middle of the river. So I think about openness. Other people I know, under stress, they would move into the left side of their brain, the rigid side of their brain, and just get very analytical and get very rules oriented. They can miss, and when somebody does that, they can miss the very people who are standing in front of them. They can miss the human element of the experience. And by doing that, it becomes difficult to connect with people and you just lose flexibility if you're banked on the rigid side or the chaotic side. Left brain, right brain. Okay. Let me see. All right, so when you take a moment and think about, we talked about the demands of what it is to be a woman in officiating today. You can think about a really specific experience for yourself with those challenges and the demands. So under stress, where do you find yourself moving toward? A more rigid orientation or a more chaotic orientation? So I'm going to also use I told you about preparing this presentation. I had so many ideas and trying to rein it in and provide something that's, you know, coherent, consistent, and helpful, useful for you all. Another experience specifically with refereeing that I think of that was really challenging to me was the constant travel, moving through airports. I would show up at an airport. I wouldn't know how long the security lines would be. I didn't know if my plane was going to be on time. There was so much out of my control. And I could do the things that I could do to make sure that I was prepared to do it well. But also at the end of the day, look, you're kind of at the mercy of what's going on at the airport. And that was a really stressful situation for me. So I would move toward chaos in that scenario. So if you think about a real specific example for yourself, do you think you move toward chaos or rigidity? The next thing we're going to do, let me share my screen again. You're going to keep this river in front of you, and we're going to cultivate our 3 C's. Okay, so what that looks like, what I want you to do now is draw a big circle in the middle of that river, the middle of your flow, okay? And in the middle of that circle, you're going to draw like a peace sign, just divide it into 3 sections. I'll show you mine, what this looks like. Okay. And in one of those sections, I want you to write the word curiosity. In another section, I want you to write the word compassion. And in the third, I want you to write the word courage. So curiosity in one, compassion in another, and courage in the third. Okay. So you say, look, Lauren, I'm like you. I move toward chaos in moments of stress. And so what do I do about it? Like, okay, so it's not just helpful to know, like you want to have the self-awareness of whether you move toward chaos or rigidity, but you don't want to stop with just awareness, right? What can we do about it? So this is what we can do about it in the middle here. The 3 C's, these are meant to offer an antidote to get you unstuck from the riverbank of chaos or rigidity that you find yourself, and find yourself more in a sense of conscientiousness rather than rigidity, or openness rather than chaos. Okay. So these 3, this is what you do about it. If you consider what of these 3 experiences is the easiest for you to enter into. Let me give an example. Curiosity is the ability to ask questions. Okay. So maybe that's easy for you. Compassion, when we think about compassion, we think about being able to make space for an experience larger than the one that you're having in that moment. It's about being able to experience self-love, empathy toward other people. So I'm going to write self-love under compassion and empathy, just a way to bring in another person, another perspective that you may not automatically operate from. And then under courage, it's the word action. So courage is toward action. I'll tell you all, the easiest for me and my personality is to begin with courage. That's where I start. I'm all good about the action. And the most difficult one for me is to landing is compassion. So what we want to do is if you identify the easiest one, that's your entry point. So maybe it's really easy for you to start with compassion and empathy and self-love. Start there. What you want to do is think about how you can start there, and it's going to take you to the one that's the hardest, because the one that's the most difficult is the one that's going to be the best antidote or the best response for being stuck on that riverbank. So let me give an example. I'm chaotic, like chaos is my move under stress. Okay. So I move to this chaotic way of experiencing, a chaotic way of thinking, and I need some structure. Structure is really important for me to be able to move off that chaotic riverbank and move toward a sense of openness and flexibility. Courage, I'm like very action oriented. It's a personality thing for me and probably life experience. But for me, action, I have to slow down. If I can slow down, I can get to curiosity. I can ask questions. I can get a more full understanding of what I'm experiencing, what may be going on, what's another way of thinking about this. And then through curiosity, I can land on compassion and say, man, it is stressful to go through an airport. It is hard to get up and be at an airport for a 6 a.m. flight after I maybe had a really like an overtime game the night before, and then we broke down tape. And I'm unhappy with some decisions that I made. I could have done, I think I could have done a little better here. Um, I'm also missing my family, and there's my work responsibilities, and I'm at an airport at 4:30 in the morning. Of course, that's hard. Like, so that sense of compassion, and I'm just using my own example to kind of help us think about this. But of course, that's hard. And so what do I need to do to take care of myself in that? Um, I'm going to give an example. Let's say you found that curiosity is the best way, the easiest way for you to enter in uh, um, to your own experience. So asking questions, you can to think about that. You're like, what is going on with me today? Why am I just, why am I snapping at people? Why am I having difficulty responding to my supervisor, to emails, to my crew? What is going on? What's happening for them? So question, your curiosity may be the way that you enter. That may move you to compassion, where you go, man, yeah, it makes sense. Like I'm under a lot of stress right now. I didn't, I haven't eaten in 10 hours. I'm hungry. I need a nap. I mean, these really basic self-care things can move you to compassion. And then it can move you to courage, which you say, okay, oh man, I've asked questions. I see what's going on for me. I'm experiencing a way of self-love and taking care of myself. And now what is the action that I need to take that can help move me off my riverbank of either being very rigid about something or being very chaotic about something, wherever you find yourself? What's the action I can take? Well, maybe it's taking some breaths. Maybe I take 3 deep breaths in that airport. And I feel the air and um calm myself down through my parasympathetic nervous system by breathing. Maybe I need maybe I need to go do a workout. Maybe I need to exercise. Maybe I need to pick up a phone and call a friend or a family member. So I've just given you some examples of what is possible. I'm going to share my screen back with you all. Um, so what you want to do is cultivate these 3 C's in the middle. And there's so much richness and depth to this work. And I'm so excited. Like I get to do this with clients, with couples, with families, individuals. But this idea of curiosity. So curiosity, you ask open-ended questions. You want to slow down, engage your senses, and then name and describe your emotions. Compassion, check in on your body. There's a real like mind-body connection. There's so much research around how our body leads our mind and our mind leads our body, and they are in relationship to one another. And so how do we make that a connected, attuned relationship? So check in on your body. You can pause and breathe. You take a break and reset. Meditation may be your thing. And then under courage, you may want to think about what's your next decision? Just the next decision, not the whole solution. What's just your next right decision to make? Think about why does it matter? Why does it matter that you take action here in a way that's going to move you off a riverbank of chaos or a riverbank of rigidity, get you back in your flow of high performance, of mental agility. Why does this matter? Well, I would guess it's because it's aligned with your values and some ambition that you have for yourself. Maybe how you want to be able to provide for your family, how you want to open doors for other officials, whatever that value system is. And then the last thing I would recommend is partner up. So when I was thinking about putting together this presentation, man, I told my supervisor, I'm like, I am all over the place. I have so many ideas I want to share with these women. I'm so excited for them. And I partnered up with him to think about a way to bring structure into what I was offering you. But a partner that you trust, that really sees you, that supports you, um, whether that be at home or in the referee space, somebody else who's kind of moving through similar experiences. It can be helpful. We exist in relationships, so think about the relationships that will help move you toward courageous action. And finally, takeaways and thank you. I wanted to leave you with some resources. So this riverbank analogy, this metaphor that I offered, keep this picture for yourself if it's helpful, because metaphors are so much easier for us to connect with later through memory and through self-awareness. So this was meant to sort of take a pretty complicated theory about interpersonal neurobiology and make it accessible. I think about my riverbank all the time. I'm telling you, I'm like, am I in chaos? Am I in rigidity? Where am I? I need to get in my flow. So Daniel Siegel, if you want to learn more about interpersonal neurobiology, there's a book about him by him on that. A podcast, Rethinking with Adam Grant. Then Where Should We Begin with Esther Perel. She's a systemic therapist also. And if you listen to her work, you can get in the habit of asking bigger questions and putting things in context. I would also offer the selfcompassion.org website as a way to cultivate the compassion portion of your pie. I used to do these self-compassion meditations at night after a game. I was like, oh my gosh, that was so hard. How do I take care of myself to go to bed and just remind myself that I'm loved, that I belong, that I'm forgiven for mistakes I make, and then how do you move those into a growth mindset. So I would offer that selfcompassion.org. And then on Instagram, Susan David _PhD. I love her stuff. You're also welcome to contact me through email. My website is there, Wilder Heart Therapy. If I can be of any help or service to you, I'm here for y'all, and I'm very excited. Okay, Grady, I am handing this off to you because you need to tell us what in terms of time and what we can do here.
All right, perfect. So the question that I have for you is, your career has showed us that mentorship and being a resource for others has been important in your own advancements. What advice do you have for women looking to build strong networks and mentorship connections in officiating?
Mm. What advice do I have for women looking to build strong relationships and mentorship connections in officiating? Okay, well, this is not going to surprise anybody who's had any experience of a mental health professional. It starts with you. Let's start inward first, right? But really, I think the more that you can identify what your values are as a person, and so you're thinking about who do I want to be in this work and how do I want to do the work in a way that reflects who I am from a values-based standpoint. That's a really good starting point for thinking about the sorts of relationships and how you want to engage those relationships. So the more you know yourself, the better you're able to move into relationship. I will say be open, because those relationships can come from unexpected places. At every level that I worked, I had the good fortune, I mean, just such good fortune of connecting with a mentor at every single level. So when I was working high school ball, there was another woman who took me in under her wing. The The person who ran the organization was really open to helping nurture my development, my growth. But you know what? Them as mentors when I was working college or FIBA, their mentorship made sense within the context of the high school group. But then when I moved into the college work, the NCAA work, and then when I moved into the WNBA work and then the NBA work, at every level, it was time to also nurture those relationships at that level too. So um, they remain important people to me and the connection remains, but I would say you want to think about it as an organic developing process, and everywhere you go you can learn something from everybody. So once you have you know who you are and your values based platform from which to do the work, that will then sort of move you in the direction of the people who are aligned with you. And so openness, I think some really practical ways would be to gosh, be curious about who they are as people and have cultural curiosity, because the people that you're going to encounter working in these FIBA events from all different parts of the globe, um, if you start with curiosity, it's a really good place to start to build some relationship. And be responsive. You know, I think if you're going to ask for nurturance, um, hold up your end of what it is to be in relationship. You want to demonstrate a trustworthiness, and you do that by being responsive and by being professional and by being caring, like just being who you are, you know?
Absolutely. Well, Lauren, thank you so, so much for joining us today and sharing all of your insights and experiences. And thank you to our participants for being here with us today. We appreciate you. The next Monday special webinar will be on March 3rd, and the next Women in Officiating webinar is March 20th. There's no collective registration, so you have to register for each webinar separately. We'll see you next time. Stay safe and stay healthy.